we're dealing with disk space issues here. For Levinas, I keep getting cut off. For Levinas, the self is a world unto itself. I, the ego, everything issues, my world issues from my ego, right? And I feel at home. I feel comfortable. I'm able to dwell in the world insofar as I understand the world, as far as I understand the world, right? My being at home in the world, my ability to operate, to function practically in the world relies on an understanding of that world. And that understanding is tied to my own subjective grasp of that world, right? My egoistic grasp of that world, right? And the other person is able to bring an end to that world, right? To issue in the apocalypse in some way, right? So, I mean, I think an easy way to think about this is, you are, say you're in a relationship and you have your whole, you're madly in love, and you think, all right, we're gonna get married, we're gonna have kids, we're gonna get a house, we have this whole life planned out, right? In your head, you have everything sorted. You've got your whole life planned out, and everything is set. You anticipate that your partner is gonna, say yes to getting married and having kids and doing all the stuff that you want to do. Right? That's your world. Right? Your world makes sense to you. You've got it all figured out, and you operate according to that world. What you can't know is what is inside the other person. Right? The face of the other person is in one sense a window into another world, but it's also like a facade, which conceals the interiority of the other person. And so what can happen, let's go back to our example. The other person in your scenario where your life is all planned out has different plans, right? And let's say this other person decides to break up with you. Right? Suddenly, through that other person, some new, completely unexpected, unaccounted for, unanticipated truth is revealed, right? That person's world is completely incompatible with your world. And the revelation of that other person's world, right, that they are not going to go along with the world that you have planned out, acts as a kind of apocalypse for your own world. Right? So this is kind of an experience of, again, your own limitation, but also of the nature of exteriority itself. That no egoistic grasp of the world, no single comprehension of the world can suffice. Right? there is no unity to the world that I can grasp through myself alone. The other is always capable of interrupting and undermining the unity that I believe I see in the world. So Levinas wants to say, in the first place, there is no self without the other person. I can't conceive of my subjectivity prior to my relation to an other, but that other is also a kind of threat to myself and my ego. So let's move on then to the essay itself. The opening line of which reads, "The philosophy of Hitler is simplistic, primaire, but the primitive powers that burn within it burst open its wretched phraseology under the pressure of an elementary force. They awaken the secret nostalgia within the German soul. Hitlerism is more than a contagion or a madness. It is an awakening of elementary feelings." Right? So this word crops up again twice in these first sentences. Elemental, right? Primitive powers that burn within the philosophy of Hitler burst open under the pressure of an elementary force. So Nazism is simple, and it has this primitive power, and this primitive power is unleashed through an elementary force. Now, what is this elementary force? Whatever it is, it awakens a secret nostalgia, right? This nostalgia, this primitive power is an awakening of elementary feelings. So what is this elemental force? And when Levinas says the philosophy of Hitler is simplistic, primaire, he's writing in French, another translation of that would be basic, right? A basic elemental force that bursts open. That is what Nazism is. He says, these elementary feelings harbor a philosophy. They express a soul's principal attitude toward the world of reality and its own destiny. Now, it's interesting, right? This most basic elementary force, these elementary feelings, they are not without some kind of philosophy, right? They are informed by philosophy. They express a soul's principal attitude toward reality and its destiny. So these elementary feelings are conditioned by a certain philosophical conception of reality and destiny. In other words, what is elementary, what is basic to humanity, is not for Levinas biological or sort of a consequence of brute cultural assimilation or something like that. What we call base human feeling is already historically developed according to long-standing philosophical ideas. Right? So what is this elemental grasp of a soul's principal attitude to reality an elementary grasp of destiny. What is our elemental grasp of destiny? He goes on. They predetermine or prefigure the meaning of the adventure that the soul will face in the world. This is to say that these elemental feelings are about what we expect from life. Right? These elemental feelings predetermine what our subjectivity anticipates for our soul. And so similarly, right, we could think of right, that idea of destiny, right? What am I owed? Right? What does the world owe me? And what does nature intend for me? That would be a kind of elemental understanding of destiny. Right? So what Levinas is suggesting is that we have this sort of elemental force that is conditioned by the history of philosophy, that is in some sense innate to us, not inborn, not in the sense of an a priori idea, but which is certainly culturally inherited and is the sort of fabric of our understanding of reality, developed historically. And that this elemental grasp of the world prepares us for the world. It readies the world for us. It gives us a world that is comprehensible. Right? When you are young, I don't know about you guys, but when I was growing up in the 90s, you were there, and I think this is still true. I mean, this is still true, right? What are you owed? What does nature intend for you? What is the sort of elemental grasp of dignity? More or less what I just laid out, right? Well, you'll get a job, you'll get married, you'll buy a house, you'll pay taxes, you'll have kids, and you will die of natural causes at a ripe old age, right? That's your natural destiny. And so when you become aware of this sort of elemental grasp of destiny, you expect the world to play out according to that idea, right? You think you know more or less what life is going to throw at you or should throw at you. So you understand the world before you face the world, really. And this is to